The Cincinnati Reds pitching staff, when healthy, should shape up as one of the better units top to bottom in all of Major League Baseball. But they are a complete mess right now, and if it weren't for half the Braves starters waiting in line for Tommy John surgery, there'd probably be a lot more focus on the problems that are going on in Cincinnati. Aroldis Chapman is out for a good 2 months, and then he's going to have to deal with the mental side of things when he tries to come back. Let's face it, there's no real way to know if this is going to be a huge problem or no problem at all until he gives it a shot. Jonathan Broxton and Sean Marshall, two of the guys with closer experience on Cincinnati, they're both starting the season on the DL, and the guy that Cincinnati does have ready to close games, J.J. Hoover, he's getting taken to the woodshed this spring. Hoover has an ERA of over 5 and a whip of 2.14. That's not his ERA, that's his whip. I can't remember the last time I've seen a whip that high for a major league pitcher. Injuries like this to the back end of a bullpen tend to have a thinning effect all throughout the relieving corps, which really hurts the entire team. And in fantasy, it hurts the starters' chances of winning games. Speaking of the starters, it doesn't look like either Matt Latos or Homer Bailey will be ready to start the season on time, and Johnny Cueto is already dealing with a bum shoulder before we start the season. At least he's consistent. Now, Cueto is an odd guy in fantasy. When he's in the lineup, he pitches like an ace in terms of his ERA and his whip, but he only strikes out 7 batters per 9 historically, which makes him somewhat of a fantasy anomaly. By the second or third week of April, I think the Reds rotation will be settled in and be fine. And there are certainly some very talented options to choose from. I don't think you can go wrong choosing Tony Cingrani, Matt Latos, or Homer Bailey and having them on your roster. Cueto either, for that matter, if you think he can stay healthy. Now, Mike Leake is someone that's interesting. He should grab close to 200 innings this year, and he won't hurt you rounding out the bottom of your fantasy staff. He pitched to a 3.37 ERA with 14 wins and more than 192 innings last season. He's not going to contribute in strikeouts much, but if you're looking at slim pickings towards the end of your draft in a deep league, he's certainly worth a roster spot. Like I said at the top, when healthy, top to bottom, you can make the argument that the Reds have one of the very best pitching staffs in the entire game. Now at this point, I'm much more confident in the success of the starters' fantasy numbers than I am at any of the relievers. Unfortunately, though, that could have a negative effect on the win totals of some of the starters, because it wouldn't be a surprise to me to see some leads blown after the starters come out. But there's another way to look at this. You might find that the starters will end up going deeper into the games than they would have gone ordinarily if they had a healthy and dependable bullpen. Keep an eye on this situation closely. Last year's pitching coach Brian Price is now the manager, and it'll be interesting to see what he does with these guys. All in all, I like Bailey, Cingrani, Latos, and Cueto to some extent in that order, and I'd really roll the dice with any one of them. As for Chapman, I'll pass on him, and I'll focus my save efforts elsewhere to begin the season. Saves are things that can often be found on the waiver wire or throughout trade if you find you're lacking in that area as the season gets underway.